Welcome back to the second part of the show. So how did you get on with the brain teaser? Of course, Cape Clear Island is also known as the Queen of Carbery's 100 Isles. Coming up in this part, we are going to speak to Fiacre, who's helped to rejuvenate the music scene on the island. But first, we're going to speak with Michael John, whose family date back 6-7 generations. I'm here with Michael John. We're in the picturesque North Harbour of Cape Clear. Michael John, how are you?
I'm good indeed, thank you.
Now, you're what they would call a true islander. You're about 6 or 7 generations, is that right?
Yeah, that's true indeed. I had a neighbour, and if he lived for 6 months more, he'd have seen 6 generations in our house. So I'd be 6 generations at least. So and my father and mother came from Cape. So I suppose you could say I'd be a true Caper.
And you're a former fisherman, I believe, as well.
I suppose I did many things in my life. I did fishing and farming, which were traditional. Did fish farming, attached to windmills, managed the Cork County, did many jobs in my day. So yeah, I suppose you could say that I have experience of Cape life since I walked out, really.
When did you notice the change in the, I suppose, old way of life to how things are now?
Yeah, I suppose from the 70s onwards, life have been changing. It have speeded up at a normal, very fast, I suppose, everywhere really. And that speeding up certainly, I'm sure, advantages for the islands and disadvantages in some ways, because when you speeded up life, it became more costly really, and a different method of life came about.
In your opinion, is it for the better or for the worse?
Well, any change, I think, has to be for the better. The problem with change is it's hard to accept sometimes and hard to come to grips with more times, depending where you are and all that time. I think that the change suited urban Ireland rather than rural Ireland.
So, can you explain to me what life as a caper is like?
I suppose to explain to you what island life is like is it is our home for a first. Any person that's living on the island is their home place is on the island. Secondly, we're no different to any other people. But we have a different set of circumstances, and that's where our difference comes in. We have to get up in the morning, do a day's work, hopefully get some kind of pay for it, and make a living just the same as every other body. We'd be very similar to the people in rural Ireland, depending on fishing, farming. Now, new technology have helped us in some ways, I suppose. There are people that can make a living from internet operations and all that kind of stuff. But generally, that's what we are.
Now, I'm assuming you're from a long generation of islanders, and a lot of the traditional ways and I suppose even the way of making money would have been passed down to you. But now we're in different times and you've got sons and they live and work away from the island. Is there a bit of sadness in that for you?
Not really. I mean, I think the first thing you have to respect is you have to respect everybody's opinion on where they want to live and where they want to call home to. Secondly, I'm sure people has to go where the opportunities are, and that's the unfortunate part of our job. And well, I mean, maybe the family aren't completely gone from the island. That's a decision for another day and for them.
The population, they're one of the big problems now facing the islands, the decreasing populations. Is there an end to it? Can you see this? What can you see as the solution to that?
There aren't simple answers to those solutions. We have been in many meetings, in particular the Cork County Council have organised, I suppose, a very interesting we call seminars and various different things trying to help the islands. What I do know from experience is it's very hard to create the kind of jobs in the islands that would keep the kind of people that are trained today by their educational system to keep them on the island. So I think that's the biggest problem. I think the second part of the question would be, yes, we get quite a few people, and I'm sure that the people that were born and reared in Cape would come back there tomorrow morning if they couldn't make a living there, or to any one of the islands for that matter. So that's where the big problem lies. There aren't simple answers to that, to create jobs that are viable and financially restoring, or just you could live off them.
And I suppose too, an awful lot of the population now has been taken over by new people coming on to live in the island, which I suppose in itself is it's a good thing, but they're not original Cape Clear people.
Yes, that would be true. It might take them a while, I suppose, let's call it, get their feet. But let's be fair and look at it from the other point of view, is they brings new talent. They have new methods and ways of making living. And secondly, I suppose we all came in at some stage. We were all strangers to the place at some stage. So, I mean, this thing of strangers and foreigners and all things, yes, it takes people a while to get clued into what's happening, but I think they bring their
Stamp to the
stamp
place.
to the place. So that's fierce important.
And it's been said to me a few times that we've been around here, living on the island is kind of like living in a different country, really.
Yes, I suppose that's true. The two times I suppose that affects you here, that affects you here very much is yes, we're all controlled by time, but we're certainly controlled by the tide as well, and by the weather, but particularly the tide, because maybe the harbour is tidal, and secondly, when I speak of the tide, the weather has a big bearing on what we do. So I think the islanders in general are very patient. They learn to be patient. I remember one instance. There was a soccer match in Italy, and a plane couldn't take off in Dublin, and they nearly broke the airport. To me, I thought that was madness. If they were down on the pier in Cape, and a bad day had come, they could take out their anger on anything, but they still have to wait until the weather calmed.
Yeah, because we went out there, we're just after coming in from going out in a spin, and you said to me, this is relatively a calm day. Now, I was literally stuck into the wheelhouse, foot up against the wall, holding on for dear life, because we had a couple of scary moments. Poor Martin nearly actually went into the water. So it really is, you're very much controlled by nature.
Yes, very much so, and yes, I mean, I like this term environmentals and living off the environment and all that, but let me tell anybody that living off the environment is not the simplest way in the world of making a living. You're controlled by the environment, by the weather, by many aspects that you don't have very little control on. So you have to try and manage those the best way you know how.
Now, I believe there's a very strong music scene here in Cape Clear, and a little birdie told me that you're in the centre of the rejuvenation of that.
Do you know, there's adults here who play music, and we've all kind of, in the past 5 years or so, put a lot of effort into the kids here on the island, and it's great. There's 15 or so children up in the school there playing different instruments, and now and again we get together with the parents as well who play. So it's a joint effort, without a doubt.
I also heard that if you go out here of a Saturday night, that the musicianship is just second to none.
Well, what we have in Cape really is a diverse group of musicians, so from trad and rock and roll and, you know, all kinds of stuff, you know, and people have moved on to the island, and people locals as well who play. So it's a great mix, and I think it makes for a good night out, actually, to be honest, yeah.
And do you think it's very, I suppose, integral to the culture of the island?
I think it's certainly always has been Cape Clear associated with music. You know, it's a big part of our lives, be it for the kids, adults, and I think it's a creelar and a hill on, the heart of the island, without a doubt.
And I mean, you're certainly planning for the future with the kids. You know, you have a lot of them playing instruments now, so it's something that I don't think is ever going to go away, is it? The music and Cape Clear?
No, and I think there's a time when any children who learn, or any adults or children who go past a certain point, it's like riding a bike, you don't forget. And I think we've achieved that now. Maybe 5 years on, their kids have gone into secondary school now and in third level, and they're playing music. So there's a point it has passed, I believe, you know, and that will allow it to go into the future.
This round I am free, yet joy I'd have, though far removed, if you remember me. Those seas of tears on strands of years must crush this life from me. If spirits live beyond the grave, then I will fly to thee. far I roam to seek your home. Still there at peace I will be. My joys they will last till time it is past. My love, remember me.
So we're just on our way back from our day trip to Cape Clear, and I have to say I'm feeling a little bit sad. The best way really of explaining it is when you were a kid and you were coming home from a summer holiday and that sick, sad feeling you felt at the pit of your stomach. I guess I'm kind of feeling a little bit of that today. The welcome that we got from the islanders was only beautiful. We had Seamus, who showed us around the island and told us a little bit about Fastnet Rock, to Ed on his goat farm. He even sang a song for us in the parlour, to Fiacra sitting on the South Bay playing us that beautiful tune Cape Clear, to Shane, the man who's getting us back here safely, and last but certainly not least to Michael John, who's 6th or 7th generation Cape Clear Island person. I think if there's one thing I'm going to take from my trip here, is the resilience of the people. If life throws you a lemon, then you make lemonade, and they've certainly done that. This certainly sets it up for me in that I can't wait to visit the other islands and see the uniqueness of that and what makes those islands, I suppose, different to the others, yet the same. Now, if you have an event that you'd like us to cover, then you can email us, corkirishtv.ie. If you're a fan of social media, then you can catch us on Facebook and Twitter. But till the next time, from me to you, Slán go fóill.